Just an absolute ho-hum win for KU on the road at Oklahoma State. That was impressive in typically a tough place to play for KU. We're going to break it all down, and what the heck is going on now with Darryn Peterson?
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How's it going? Derek Johnson with another edition of Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day and making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. On today's episode of the show, we're breaking down KU rolling at Oklahoma State with a dominant victory in Stillwater, why it's important for KU, what's going on again with Darryn Peterson here. We'll get to our game awards, moments of the game, stat of the game, and what's next for KU, all that on the show, which is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. So KU rolls over Oklahoma State 81-69. They lead for 39 minutes and 25 seconds. They never trailed in this game. It was just a dominant road victory where you were up by double digits for a majority of it. And even when they started kind of going on some runs here and there, even when KU had that dry spell where they didn't score at the end of the first half and Oklahoma State kind of carried over a little bit of momentum in the second half, they never really panicked and they just continued to make plays, and then were eventually able to kind of balloon it out. And it's a tough place to play. It's an Oklahoma State team that has some guys that can go off at any given moment. It's an Oklahoma State team fighting for their, NCAA tournament lives, and with a good crowd in a difficult place to play, they can get pretty loud. So impressive win overall for KU. And those are the type of wins that mature basketball teams have. You're going on the road in kind of a trap game environment and you find a way to win. And not only that, you're bouncing back. You're avoiding the losing streak. You're avoiding, hey, we lost to Iowa State. Don't compound it. Don't compound it with another loss. Bounce back. And they did. And now the kind of importance of this, like if we're looking kind of big picture, like first of all, another 20-win season for Kansas. So, that's kind of a cool footnote here. But obviously the Texas Tech news sucks about JT Toppin out for the season with torn ACL. But as we look into the conversation of, can Kansas secure a top 4 seed in the Big 12 and get a double bye to the NCAA tournament, winning this game becomes huge because we kind of put the target on it before the Toppin news. Can you go 4-2 in the final 6? And then you feel like you're getting a good shot. If you go 5-1, you should be able to for sure have that kind of locked up. And now with this win in tow, you still have your 2 toughest games remaining with Houston at home and at Arizona coming next week. But this was, to me, your 3rd most difficult game. Now, if you wanted to argue Arizona State instead of the Oklahoma State game because Arizona State just beat Texas Tech at home and stuff, like I guess you could. But to me, this was the 3rd most difficult game, and you got it out of the way with a victory. And that is really important to where, even now, let's say you did lose to Houston and Arizona. Obviously, you want to win both, and ideally you're winning at least one of the 2. But in the worst case that you did, the other 3 games are games you're going to be, favored in by 2-3 possessions. So when you look at it from that perspective, your path to getting that top 4 seed and getting the double bye in the Big 12 tournament became a lot better today with a victory. And then beyond that, like as much as it is still a little bit of a long shot because you do have to probably beat Houston and at Arizona, it's still possible. And the Big 12 title is still at least within reach for KU. And after the last couple of years where we got to the last couple of weeks of the season and it was foreign for KU fans who for so many years it was winning, but it was, are we going to wrap up winning the Big 12 the last week of the season, the last game of the season, or 2 weeks to go, or, and now you're back in the conversation. You're 1 game back of the top of the conference, and you still play the 2 teams who are at the top, and they still have to play some difficult opponents. So, as much as I have more so been focusing on the top 4 in the Big 12 thing, and as much as you're not favored to necessarily do it, doesn't mean you can't. They still are in the Big 12 title race. They still are in contention to potentially win the Big 12. And that's what a win in this one did for you, that it keeps you alive to have those big moments, those big opportunities in some of those bigger games coming up, right? So you look at some of the biggest positives from this one for KU. The fact that Darryn Peterson looked as good as he was before, obviously, he went out, just from a standpoint of how he looked. Like, forget the injury stuff and coming in and out of the games. In the Iowa State game, it was 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting. We'd seen some other performances where, it wasn't the same efficiency we were used to. Well, that got knocked away. 6 of 10 from 3, 7 of 12 from the field, 23 points for the game. So that was good to see, just kind of the shots going down again. Bryson Tiller had his first career double-double. That was good to see for KU. It was good to see Tre White break out of the rut. That kind of becomes a theme in this one of Peterson breaking out of it's a mini rut. It's not really like a normal person rut for what Peterson, but with Tre White, he was on a rut, right? Single-digit points combined over the previous 2 games on low efficiency. In this game, he picked it back up. 16 points, 5 rebounds. He goes 6 of 13. He goes 2 of 5 from 3. So it was good to see some of your better players getting back into it. It was good to see Elmarko Jackson have another big game for KU with 14 points and 4 assists, because the more he puts together these, flash moments, flash games for KU off the bench, then it just becomes about, okay, you've shown what your ceiling can be. You had this big game against Tennessee. You had the big moments against UConn. You had some, moments in some of these other Big 12 games for KU, and, including this one against Oklahoma State. And then the next step is, can you do that more consistently? But this is the step between, because we didn't have these highlight moments as freshman season, right? Now we're getting the highlight moments. The next step is consistency. So all those things I think were really good to see. I mean, shoot, it was really cool to see Cole Rosario hit a 3, that dude has been laboring making a 3. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a made 3 in Big 12 play up until today. And, I don't know if it'll lead to more minutes or anything. Like, part of that will just depend on, okay, is Peterson playing or not? Because if Peterson's playing in a bigger game, like, Rosario just won't be in the rotation. But if Peterson is forced to miss more time, then yeah, there is going to be an opportunity for, Cole Rosario or a Jaden Dawson to come in, even if it's just for 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes in a game, to try to hit a couple threes. And the fact that, I don't know, that's just such a long dry spell without a made 3 for a guy that is supposed to be a 3-point shooter. So it was good to see, one of those go in the basket from that standpoint for KU. And then beyond that, from the team perspective, holding Oklahoma State to 35%, it kind of just continues your identity and your thing about, being a defensive team and being strong on the defensive end of the floor for KU. All those were good things to see. You also, I think had really good rim protection in this game. I thought you did a really good job of when they were taking the ball inside. It seemed like there were a lot of contested shots. Obviously, Kansas ended up with a 7-0 block advantage. So that's kind of part of that too. And then I just thought KU moved the ball really well, which kind of backed up by the 20 assists for KU. One of the things I said I wanted to see coming into this was Darryn Peterson being a playmaker and get a bunch of assists, or at least get 2 or 3. He had 0, so that didn't really fix itself. That would be one of my big negatives of the game. But KU as a team had 20 of them, so that was good to see. Now, other negatives from this one, just to poke here and there, I guess you could, if you are Kansas. You could point to the defensive rebounding again. Oklahoma State had 15 offensive rebounds. It kind of ebbed and flowed. The beginning of the game, Oklahoma State was getting a bunch of offensive rebounds, and then it felt like in the middle portion of the game, KU was the one getting the offensive rebounds, and then it finished Oklahoma State getting some offensive rebounds. So I don't know, some of those are in real moments, some of them are not, but it continues to be a thing where KU was giving up too many offensive rebounds. Obviously, the big negative though here is the Darryn Peterson stuff, right? It's Darryn Peterson hitting the 3 in the second half, and he had played at that point, 3 minutes in the second half. And then there's actually a video out there, right? There's actually a video out there of Peterson hitting the 3. It's a little bit of a grainy video on social media, and then turning to Bill Self afterwards, and you can see him just, I don't know, you can't read any layups. It's not like that, but it just seems like he's kind of asking to come out of the game, right? And who knows what it's going to be. As I'm recording this right now, I'm trying to keep an eye on when is the press conference going to happen? When's there going to be a quote about it? Although, if we're being completely honest, how much are we actually going to learn from the press conference? We've heard so many different things, and it's clearly just an attempt to protect Darryn Peterson. So whatever the real story is, whatever. But as long as he's good for the next game, I guess it's fine. At what point do you, it feels like for so long we've talked about okay, well, why don't you just play Darryn Peterson less in the first half, or is the issue the ramping up, playing in the game, sitting back down at halftime, and then trying to ramp back up to where even if you played 4 minutes in the first half, you would still have that same problem? I don't know the answer to that. Or crazy idea. I don't know. I don't know if this is me just joking or being stupid, or if this is actually a foolproof idea. What if KU just didn't play Darryn Peterson in the first half? Hear me out. Because how many first halves have Darryn Peterson had where he goes for like 13, 15, 16, even 20 points in the first half. And then we see him go for like 2 or 5 in the second half. Could you imagine if KU went into every game knowing, hey, we're going to be without Peterson in the first half. We got our guys. And then the second half, he's going to be our guy that gets us over the hump. So like imagine you're playing a team and the fear you strike in their eyes when you're tied at halftime, when you're up 2 at halftime, and they know in the back of their head, oh, crap, we're tied with them right now, and Darryn Peterson's about to come in the second half and drop 20 points on us. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being serious or not with that idea. Maybe there's that. Who knows? But they need to get that figured out. And clearly at this point in the season, it's not going to get figured out. So I guess just continue to deal with it and hope that when March hits that there's another level of competition or something that he wants to get into. Who knows? But KU wins by 12. Dominant win. Really good victory in the end for KU and get you back on your winning ways. Now won 9 of 10 overall. All right, let's continue on with some of our game awards, and then we'll get to what's next. This is Locked on Jayhawks. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals and in person? FanDuel's giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. Flights, tickets, it's the whole experience. And now not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. It was a heavyweight showdown between number 3 South Carolina and number 7 LSU, and the Gamecocks rose to the occasion. South Carolina secured a hard-fought 79-72 victory to stay atop the SEC standings, using a balanced offensive attack to outlast the Tigers. Tessa Johnson led the way with 21 points, while Raven Johnson added 19. Medina Okot dominated the paint with a double-double, finishing with 12 points and 17 rebounds, while Joyce Edwards chipped in 10 points to round out the scoring. With the statement win, the Gamecocks now turn their attention to a road matchup at number 23 Alabama on Thursday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
And thank you for joining us here on Locked on Jayhawks. You can check out the Everyday Air Club where you can get the ad-free version of the show and join our Discord server, lockedonpodcasts.com/everydayer. All right, moments and plays of the game for KU. I think just in general, I know it sucked that he didn't play at the end, but I don't know. It sucks a little less just because it's normalized, I guess, at this point. But the start for Darryn Peterson was awesome. He was on fire, and getting out and setting the tone like that for KU was so vital on the road. You're coming off a down performance against a really good Iowa State team, and to kind of lift the spirits back up like that and get you out on the right foot and get the confidence up and get the crowd a little quieter, that was huge for KU. I also think KU was stuck on 39 for a little. It was, I don't know, a little over like 3 minutes or something without a point. And Oklahoma State had crept it back to within, at one point KU was, looking like they were going to go up 20 or more at halftime. And Oklahoma State had crept it back to 12. It was 39-27 at the half, and KU hadn't scored for a little. And, it just felt like, okay, Oklahoma State's got the momentum. If they can get this to single digits at halftime, what is that going to mean in the second half? And Melvin Council has a huge kind of finger roll layup that puts you back up 41-27 and gives you that little bit of a cushion at the end of the first half. And obviously you end up leading by 14 at half. And obviously Oklahoma State comes out in the second half as well and starts to make a little bit of game again, but then you keep pushing through. I also thought the Tre White 3 that he hit it kind of, earlier midway point of the second half that kind of extended the lead again when it felt like, okay, Oklahoma State's kind of waning around this 10 to 13 point mark. And then that just pushes it back out. Felt like that was the one where it's like, man, we keep getting it to a 10 or 13 and they just keep responding. And that almost felt like the one that, the straw that broke the camel's back. One of my favorite plays of the game, though, was, I mean, as good as Elmarko was in this game for KU, the fun highlight of, obviously, when you think of Elmarko passes, you might think of first the Arizona one that he had on the pass to Tiller. He's just got a good connection with Tiller, which I guess that's a good sign, because potentially for the 2026-27 team, like that could be, you could have Elmarko Jackson and Talon Kinney starting in the backcourt, and Elmarko addition to Bryson Tiller, who's a first-team All-Big 12 player or something. But anyway, no need to focus on that because we got a fun team right now. But Elmarko's, like, he gets the ball, and he has Jamari McDowell to his left. He's on the wing. And Elmarko's, they've got one defender between them, so he's kind of got the option. Do you fake the pass and shoot? Do you just shoot right away? Do you take a dribble and kick out to Jamari McDowell? There's a lot of different things you could do, and you could get caught in paralysis analysis a little bit, but he just makes a decisive move, fakes the pass to get the defender to take kind of a jab that way, starts to drive in, and then as the help defender comes over to defend him at the rim, and he kind of jumps in the air to make it look like he's going to take like kind of a circus layup, he dishes the pass down to Tiller, who goes in for the dunk. And I just thought that was a really good highlight and continues to show the progression of Elmarko Jackson. And it also put KU up 61-40, where it was kind of like night-night at that point for KU. Our stats of the game, or stat of the game for KU, I mean, holding Oklahoma State to 35%, that's obviously a big number there. I think in general for KU, anytime you outscore another opponent in bench points when you don't always know what you're going to get there and you're not the deepest team, like that's kind of a good sign for Kansas. The blocks being 7-0, I thought were pretty indicative of, right, if you look at Kansas shooting 50 or 46%, Oklahoma State at 35%, I think a big reason why was shots around the rim in this one, right? I'm going to be interested to see the kind of shot charts after the game to see what it kind of says. But just looking at what some of the stats have, this says Oklahoma State was only 12 of 28 on layups and dunks. So they were below 50% on layups and dunks, and obviously 7 blocks, I'm trying to think, like, not every block is going to be on a layup or dunk, but a majority are, probably 5 or 6 of them are, right? Meanwhile, KU only went 7 of 20 on layups. How about that? They were 4 of 4 on dunks, though. But I guess a big reason why, you're just rim protection and your ability to limit teams to easy baskets on the inside. And so with Oklahoma State not making threes in this game, it becomes really difficult to score on KU if you can't do that because of their rim protection. So to me, the blocks being 7-0, even though I guess neither team was great on layups, kind of becomes a key story in this one. But you could probably, I don't know, if we're being on, like, the fact that Oklahoma State came in as a potentially dangerous team from 3-point range. I think in Big 12 only games, they were 3rd in 3-point percentage, if I'm remembering the stat right. The fact that you made 4 more 3-pointers on 4 less attempts, that honestly is probably the stat of the game. But it's not just about, okay, well, we just shot it better today. I thought KU did a much better job of getting open shots. I thought KU moved the ball so well. Obviously, the 20-13 in assists sticks out there. So maybe we make that the one, it's the assists, because it led to KU getting more open shots and hitting a lot of those threes, which ended up being an advantage for KU. Our awards of the game, we're going to give our Grand Theft Auto, bleep, here we go again, the DP situation. At this point, it's just like normalized. I'm just going into every game being like, okay, Peterson's going to go for, double digits in the first half. He's going to make a shot or 2 in the second half, and then he's going to be out for the rest of the game if KU is up big or if they are down big. And if it's a closer game than like the Texas Tech game, then maybe he'll power through, but he's not going to just look the same. Because he really is dealing with an, I feel he's really dealing with an injury. Now, that said, this is going to be the sand in the wound, the lemon rind in the open cut. This was not obviously intended to, throw any shade at KU or anything, but you felt it as a KU fan if you saw this. This is from John Calipari, who Arkansas and Alabama played one of the best games of college basketball of the season. Insanely high scoring, super close game. Darius Acuff, who was the number one, I don't know what he finished as. I know at the time KU was recruiting, and then they ended up saying, hey, we're going to focus more on Darryn Peterson and, walk away from the Acuff stuff. But at the time, I think Peterson was like the number 1 shooting guard and Acuff was the number 1 point guard, or maybe one was a combo, whatever. Acuff's been awesome so far this season for Arkansas. He just had 49 points. They obviously lost the game. But Calipari said that he was in a walking boot for 2 days prior to the game. And he said, I said you think you might have to miss this game? And Darius said, are you nuts? And it's just seeing that from another one and done freshman who's been going off, and it's just like rubbing sand in the wound when you see this happen again. But, the minutes we saw was really fun from Peterson. And then my final award here is the story of the game. We didn't hear this till later in the broadcast, but they told a little bit of an anecdote that, because we had seen Adrian Wojnarowski, the former NBA, I don't know, notable star reporter, I guess you would say, who now is the GM at St. Bonaventure. I think we saw the thing on social media where he responded to somebody and said something about, basically glowing reviews for Melvin Council, who was there. And I think we've since heard, I think Fran Fraschilla shared something, I don't know, a game or two ago about how Adrian Wojnarowski said that, Council was worth like an 8-win difference or something insane for St. Bonaventure last year or something. So the story we heard on this one, and I don't know, is this just becoming is Melvin Council just like Paul Bunyan? Is he just becoming this mythical figure that continues to we're going to, by the end of the season, Melvin Council is going to be 8 feet tall. He's going to have a tail. He's going to have magical powers. I don't know. But it's really cool to see all this stuff. And obviously he's probably number one on the fan power rankings for most loved player. Right. But the story that was told this time was that he goes on his visit to KU, and Adrian Wojnarowski, I don't know if he called the KU staff or what, and tells them, you better not let him leave Lawrence without committing, because you'll be missing out on something big. And boy, was Woj right on that one. So I think KU needs to keep turning to, maybe KU needs a GM eventually. Woj, come on down. Anyway, let's get to our game balls. What's next for KU? This is Locked On Jayhawks. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get every tax deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. This episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which ones might be the sleeper. The board's set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors, something for everyone. Berry, grape, cherry, unique options like confetti craze, cotton candy, sour apple, tropical burst. To me, here's the sleeper pick of the draft: strawberry banana. I love bananas. I also, when I get smoothies, strawberries, blueberries, bananas, anything with that combination, I'm fully in. So I'm in on the strawberry banana with the 5 Hour Energy. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Again, don't forget and check out the Everydayer Club, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer, ad-free version of the show, and join our Discord server. Our game balls for KU. Let's start with the offensive game ball for the Jayhawks. I feel silly giving the guy who only played 18 minutes and only played, 3 minutes in the second half, the offensive game ball, but he led KU in points. He scored 23 points in 18 minutes. That is stupid. He was 7 of 12. He hit 6 of KU's 11 threes. Just to discuss other candidates, Tre White had 16 points. He had 2 offensive rebounds. Melvin Council, we talked about this coming in. We thought it would be a big assist game for Melvin Council. He had 7. Bryson Tiller, how about him having 7 assists, by the way? He also had 10 points and 2 offensive rebounds. Flory had 8 points, 3 offensive rebounds, 2 assists. Elmarko with 14 points. Do we look at him and say, the punch that he gave off the bench, and he had 4 assists, 1 turnover? I think we have to give it to Peterson, though. He's the big reason KU built up that big lead and kind of quiets the crowd and gets the momentum to KU. So Peterson gets our offensive game ball. Our defensive game ball for KU, Bidunga had 4 blocks, and he was a key piece on the interior. You also get 2 from Tiller. You get a block and a steal from Darryn Peterson. You get 2 steals from Elmarko Jackson, which also 2 steals from Melvin Council in this one. We look over to the Oklahoma State side of things. Anthony Roy had 16 points, so it looks good if you're just looking at that, but he was only 4 of 14 from the floor. This is a really good scorer who's usually very efficient. Now, Parsafala, who at times was on Flory, at times was on, Tiller, had a big game, 21 points on 7 of 13. But really nobody else did anything for Oklahoma State. I do think we have to give credit for, some of the KU guards and what they were able to do in limiting the Oklahoma State guards at the 1 and 2 position and kind of at the 4 position. So I know this is kind of cheating, and like, I kind of just want to give it to KU as a team. Like, it really was everybody. You hold them to 35%. The stats are kind of split up. Like, you have 2 different players with multiple steals. You have 3 different players with steals. You have 2 different players with multiple blocks, and none of them were the players that had the steals. And then you have the player with a block and a steal. So like, it was a little bit of everybody, and only one player really hurt you consistently on Oklahoma State. So I kind of just want to give a team game ball here. And you know what? It's my show, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And then our overall game ball, we will give that to Elmarko Jackson. How about that, right? The 2 steals, the 14 points, the 4 assists, the impact off the bench, that fun highlight play that I mentioned earlier. So Peterson, offensive game ball, team ball for the defensive side, and then Elmarko Jackson gets the overall. What's next for KU? Saturday against Cincinnati. Cincinnati team that, things aren't going so well for Wes Miller in kind of a important season, because he might be let go unless they can, go on some crazy run here, right? And it's going to be tough. They're at Kansas, at Texas Tech, versus Oklahoma State, versus BYU, at TCU. They're going to have to win several of those games and then go on a run in the Big 12 tournament, right? But yeah, things are not looking great for him. Now, I will say Cincinnati, usually a pretty tough team. They're starting to figure it out. They've won 3 straight games, albeit none of them have been against great competition. But one that, if you're looking too far ahead, right? We saw KU play a little closer than Utah than you would expect. If you're looking too far ahead to Monday against Houston, well, Cincinnati's a much better team than Utah is. So that's how it ends up being a little too close for comfort. So just take care of business on Saturday. And then, yeah, it's that big week that's going to determine, do you have a chance to win the Big 12 title? You're versus Houston on Monday. You're at Arizona the following Saturday. It's going to be an exciting week. And you can catch all the action, the previews, the postcasts, the recaps, the, analysis right here on Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for listening to our show anywhere you get your podcasts or on our YouTube page. And see you next time on LOJ